Today was the normal exit meeting for football. Thursday is the normal Board of Regents meeting. I think I speak for a decent amount of us when I say, dear 8-pound, 11-ounce baby Jesus, please make sure these meetings don't just continue to stay normal. Thank you.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Get square today with Game Time Tickets. I know words are hard for me. I can't speak English sometimes, but we're going to roll right into this conversation of the quote-unquote normal exit meetings. And for all of you out there in podcast country that make this thing churn, every time I say normal, I'm using the bunny quotes. Why? Because I just don't know how much of today was actually normal. Just like I don't know if it's normal that some of the main coaches weren't there. Typically, they're going to be there for an exit meeting, but I also understand with National Signing Day being tomorrow, perhaps that's why the exit meeting today was a little bit different than typical. But nonetheless, we are now finding ourselves in a position that you have the exit meetings. And the exit meetings is an opportunity for the outgoing seniors to talk about all their time at Oklahoma State and some of the things that they've seen and kind of encourage some of the new guys to pick up the flag, carry the torch, and move it along. And then some of the middle ground guys, right, the sophomores, the juniors, they kind of talk about what they've seen thus far and how they foresee the future for the upcoming season. And then sometimes you'll have even some of the underclassmen kind of get an opportunity to speak up in regards to what their journey was like throughout the course of the season, what stood out, and what they thought potentially could be better in the future. And then, of course, this is a good opportunity for the coaches to also have some of these conversations as well, right? This is what we used to do at Oklahoma State. This is what we shifted. This is what we adjusted. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. This is where we failed. This is how we plan to fix it, so on and so forth. It is a really good sign whenever you have everybody involved in the exit meeting. So I don't know exactly what we should take away from the fact that there was some people that were not involved in the meeting today. It could very well just be that they're out on the recruiting trail. They're getting prepared for National Signing Day, or they're just, trying to put out fires in other positions. So I don't know that if you can call it normal, right? But at the same time, it's not like it was some massive groundbreaking day where we got news of Dunn being demoted or Nardo being demoted or Dickey getting let go or deciding to retire. We didn't get a lot of that out of the exit meeting today. If anything, today's exit meeting added more questions than answers, and I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but I can assure you that there's likely some people in the locker room that are also equally as frustrated with being kept in the dark and not knowing what's going on and not knowing what's going to happen or what the development's going to be or what the transition's going to look like. Not hearing anything is not good. It's not good for us, of course, as fans, but it's more troublesome if you're an individual that's in that locker room that is looking to be part of the restoring order process, right? You're seeing guys, primarily some of the younger guys, that started off with Jonathan Agumidu and Armstrong Nodum and Gunnar Wilson, Landon Cleveland, Rodney Fields, David Kabongo, that type of crew, the DFW 23, 24 class area guys have all decided to be part of this restore order operation. But now you're starting to see some of the upperclassmen kind of jump into the fold as well. I think that there's a good opportunity that although DeJuan Lofton did in fact enter the transfer portal, after he hears a little bit more of the sales pitch about what the objective is going to be for him moving forward, I feel like there's going to be a good chance that DeJuan Lofton might remove his name from the transfer portal if things go well. Likewise, on the other side of the coin, you should be able to expect some of the guys like maybe a Kendall Daniels, right? Came in, high 4-star, number one player in the state of Oklahoma, went to Texas A&M, got out of the yellow eye at A&M, and out of his words, it was because he realized everything he thought he could accomplish in College Station, he could do the same in Stillwater. NFL prototypical size, speed, strength, all of that. It didn't click this year, right? And I think a lot of us would be surprised if somebody like a Kendall Daniels were to actually make a return. And then you're going to have some dudes like Nick Martin and Colin Oliver and Ollie Gordon. Of course, we expect those guys to take their talents on to the next level, but they're all dealing with certain things, right? Colin Oliver, Nick Martin coming off of injury, Ollie Gordon going from a top 20 draft pick to potentially a possible third, fourth round style of guy. Those things have to get sorted out. So I understand not getting news in that department as well. I am perplexed, though, that we haven't heard any major news in regards to some coaching today. If anything, I figured that the guys would be let known that, hey, this particular coach has been here for X number of years. He's looking at retiring. So all of you guys that are potentially thinking about staying or transferring or blah, 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 blah. And maybe that's going to happen at a little bit of a later date. Honestly, I know some of this is going to be abnormal just because we're not in a bowl game. So we normally don't have the exit meetings and these style of conversations this early on. This is typically conversations that we have well into the months of December and January. But we are in a unique position right now as Cowboy country. And that is that we are not preparing for a whole lot. We're not getting ready for a bowl game. So we are probably more focused on National Signing Day than we ever have been before. So again, I understand parts of today were not normal, but I also understand that we're in a very weird time and we haven't seen our coaching staff, have exit meetings before the bowl games before in the last basically, 19, 18 years. And 18 years ago, there wasn't NIL. There wasn't this level of a transfer portal. So even if it would have been the same back then, it really wouldn't give us a clear indication on what it all means for today. But again, you're going to have some guys like Kendall Daniels that are likely going to enter the portal. Then you might have some guys like DeJuan Lofton that if the conversations go right, might remove themselves from the portal. I expect guys like Lyric Rawls to come back. He's got a couple years remaining. And then, of course, the young guys that are already kind of regalvanizing amongst themselves is going to be good for the locker room. What's not good for the locker room is more uncertainty. And that seems to be a little bit of a problem area. Now, also, I'm very well aware that a decent number of guys that may have been super forthcoming yesterday, they may have an obligation to keep things on the down low right now, which I 100% respect. And I wouldn't pry to put anybody in any precarious situations anyways. But nonetheless, you can read through some of the tea leaves without asking too many questions. And then you just kind of piece things together. And what it equals today is abnormal. That's what today was. It wasn't as abnormal as maybe some of us thought it was going to be. Like I fully anticipated that we had at least one coach that was announced to the team today that is going to retire, step away, so on and so forth. So that particular position group can start looking into their future. But that didn't happen, okay? It was not a traditional exit meeting. But again, is that because National Signing Day's tomorrow? We're not playing in a bowl game. There's a lot of fluctuation on the number of guys that are graduating or going pro or possibly entering the portal. All I'll say before we jump over to segment 2 is the uncertainty. It's okay if the fan base is uncertain, right? We don't really deserve to know a whole lot anyways. But do not sit on your hands and allow the players to go through what they went through in 2022, which is no direction, not enough conversation. Now, that was even after the bowl game. But see, the irritation there was the bowl game's over, right? And you have a group of guys, including somebody like a Spencer Sanders, that is waiting on conversation. They're waiting on the direction, on what the offense is going to look like. Are we going to make changes? What is Casey Dunn going to do? And they didn't get that, right? A decent number of starters went days and days without hearing anything from our coaches after the bowl game. I find that abnormal. So maybe some of the coaches not being around today is normal given the current situation, landscape, this, and that, and the other. But again, I'll say this. Do not keep the players in the dark forever. That is the worst thing that can happen right now. If we have any hope of making sure that there's not a big, portal exodus, it's not going to take a bunch of soothsaying. It's just going to take conversation. And it doesn't have to be directly, this is exactly who we're going to hire, this is exactly who we're going to fire. But even in generalizations, you got to give the dudes who want to stay something to look forward to. Because nothingness, everything being off into the abyss, that's not good. It's not good for them. It's not good for the coaches. It's not good for the fans. So hopefully they at least start letting the players know what directions are going to be looking like moving forward. That will determine what the transfer portal looks like. What the transfer portal has nothing to do with is you getting the best tickets in the game to everything, even if it's not a game. It doesn't have to just be sports related. Game Time Tickets is going to have you covered on a multitude of things: sports, comedy, concerts, theater, doesn't matter. Events near you, Game Time Tickets is going to have you covered. And the Game Time Pick is going to make it so much easier and faster for you to find the right tickets to the event that you want to see without having to sit through thousands of minutes of ridiculousness. Find the right tickets at the right place, which is Game Time. The all-in pricing is a feature that shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The seat view is panoramic, and it's the best in the business, so you know exactly where you're sitting before you get there. The lowest price guarantee. Ticket coverage is going to give you 110% back the difference, on top of also having the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Make sure that you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download a Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Make sure you create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today because you already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's game time. From game time to the coaching search time, there is a possibility, it might even be a likelihood, that we have hired somebody. Now, what side of the ball? We don't know yet. Who that name could be? We don't know yet. Could it all just be more smoke and mirrors on what has already been a pretty wild and wacky Tuesday? Absolutely. But if we are to read through some of the tea leaves once again, my understanding throughout this process was that Charlie Dickey would likely be the first to go. So I just assumed that that would be the first name announced that we were going to bring in, or even let go / retire, whatever the case may be. But that hasn't happened. And we did pick up a new offensive lineman from Tulsa. So either he is in the know or maybe he knows something that we don't know. But nonetheless, if it is true that we did make a hire today and we're just in the finalization process, the only name that I've heard that we've kind of pinpointed, or at least had meetings with, conversations with, have mutual interest in, is the defensive coordinator at Rice. Now, this doesn't mean it's a done deal. Obviously, Brian Smith statistically isn't going to blow you out of the water. If you go look up at Rice defensive statistics, you're not going to automatically be like, oh, yeah, he's the absolute dude. And he might not be the dude. But this does mean that we're at least willing to explore moving on from Brian Nardo. And that also does mean, though, that if that's the case, and let's say that we did hire the defensive coordinator out of Rice, which I legitimately have no idea if that's the case or not. But if that were the case, then it likely also means that Nardo is going to get moved within the defense, or Joe Bob might get moved within the defense. Paul Randolph likely would not get moved. So Joe Bob Clements used to be the D-line coach, but we have a D-line coach, and Brian Nardo's familiar with the linebackers, could potentially coach linebackers. It just means that there's going to be a couple dudes get squeezed out. Now, I've been told that Wozniak, the running backs coach, Hammersmith, the safeties coach, are untouchable, and Tim Duffy, the cornerbacks coach, is pretty doggone close. And I know Coach Duffy just built a brand new home, and historically, he's had very good corners. We've just regressed the last few years for whatever reason, but he has shown the capability to get guys from 2-star, 3-star, and then put them in the league, right? So it's not lost on Tim Duffy that he knows how to do the daggone thing. So I think a lot of that makes sense. But if there is a new coach already hired, I would be surprised if it wasn't an offensive staff member, because that's the biggest shakeup that I can kind of gather is going through. But if we are moving on to new levels of meetings with Brian Smith, the defense coordinator or ICE, then we're obviously willing to entertain several ideas on the defensive side of the ball. And if all of our issues, not all of our issues, but a decent number of our issues for the last few years have been offensively, then I think it makes sense that we're going to do something kind of significant here. And I do think that there's a dynamic between Chad Weiberg and Casey Schrum and Mike Gundy and some of the donors that obviously is the quintessential I wish I was a fly on the wall moment. But nonetheless, right, I think that there's a lot of external pressure, or at least enough external pressure to make Chad Weiberg, make Mike Gundy do something. Now, of course, I'm sure you too have heard some of the rumors today that Mike Gundy might be getting the axe. I don't see how that's viable. I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how we could financially do that. Do we struggle in NIL to the degree that we think of? No, not really. I mean, it's kind of like the recruiting budget, right? We have like on paper, one of the lowest recruiting budgets in the Big 12. But when you really take a peek behind the curtain, because we don't use, external airports, we'll use Stillwater Airport. Because we don't use a lot of external hotels, we'll use the Atherton. And we try to give guys the same game day experience that they would have if they were to come to Oklahoma State. That is a lot different than a lot of other places, right? Most other places, when you go on a recruiting trip, an official visit, they've got to pay to put you up in these hotels and do all the media stuff and the pamphlets. And we do that, but we do it significantly differently. So there's going to be a few $100,000 every year that we kind of utilize, but it doesn't really show up on the books because we utilize it significantly differently than everybody else. But just because we're not broke doesn't mean we have bukus of dollar bills, right? From a financial standpoint, if you were going to get rid of Gundy, well, then you wouldn't have enough money to get rid of everybody else, right? And vice versa. If you were going to get rid of the whole staff, then you absolutely wouldn't have enough money to keep Gundy. I don't think that there's any way possible that we have enough meat on the bone financially to get rid of Gundy and all of the coaches, right? And when I say all of the coaches, it could just be 4, 5, 6 coaches. But nonetheless, whenever you try to cut down the deficit, financially speaking, that's where some of this comes into play. And I also have to add to the Board of Regents meeting Thursday. I don't expect it to be normal either, quote unquote. There's the bunny ears again, podcasting country. Because, of course, they have these discussions monthly, right? This is a regular deal. This isn't some special off-the-wall occasion. But just like I don't think today was anything, quote unquote, normal, I don't think the Thursday meeting will be as well. Now, can they have any hand on coordinators getting fired or hired? No, not really. But they do have a hand in financial reallocation of funds and how that picture is going to look like. So I would assume that there is a feasible way for the Board of Regents to flex their muscles without having to, carry a big stick while doing so. They can send subliminal messages that Mike Gundy, Chad Weiberg, Dr. Schrum, and everybody else gets the hint of. So just like today wasn't exactly normal, but it wasn't crazy. Thursday probably won't exactly be normal, so it probably won't be too crazy either. But again, there was some things today that aren't normal. So there's that. Just like you can make sure that you're not normal either in the financial gains department. Don't be normal when you can be flexing in the dollar bills with FanDuel. Ladies and gentlemen, this is America's #1 sports book for a multitude of reasons. And there's a multitude of reasons why you need to get squared away today. I know the Cowboys haven't really been giving us all of the hammer the over action, but it's okay because Tylan Wallace has us covered. Jaylen Warren has us covered. Justice Hill has us covered. And right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if it's a winner. The FanDuel Sports app is going to give you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all in one place, right? So that little tingling sensation you get in the middle of the game, now you can take it. Check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more from the same page where you place those bets from. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. Let's go get our dude, Tyreek Hill, over the hump, over the number. Capitalize on your monetary abilities. Get started with $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 hauler is a winner. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com. Never waste that tingling sensation in the middle of the game ever again. Make every moment matter more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Now you need to envision that meme or GIF or whatever it is. I'm showing my age, I know, but that the stick figure poking the person on the ground that says, hey, just do something. Wake up, get up, do something. That's what it kind of feels like right now. If you're an Oklahoma State fan and you've got OU making announcements and UCF making announcements and Utah making announcements and Nebraska, Colorado, you got all these people making announcements. They're doing some shuffling, but not Oklahoma State. Now, I would love to hoot and holler and ran on the rails over this, but I'm actually going to, give a benefit of the doubt here. I firmly believe that Dr. Shrum has bigger sights than just, remaining at Oklahoma State forever. I think she's the type of individual that might have the ability to run for some sort of political office at some point in time. And if that's the case, then I would imagine that she knows good and daggone well if she wants a different future outside of being a president at a university, it can't go downhill really far under her watch. And for that reason, amongst some others, I do feel like that Dr. Shrum is pushing the tar out of Chad Weiberg. She's the one with the stick poking Chad Weiberg, saying, hey, do something, make something happen. And because we haven't heard anything, that almost leads me to lean into crazy land and think that us not hearing a lot is actually because we're making some big moves. Because Chad Weiberg, no doubt, has a lot of admiration for Mike Gundy. He no doubt respects Mike Gundy. But he also probably respects his job. And I also think that Chad Weiberg realizes more so now than ever, this is a business. And it's a business that Mike Gundy currently does not quite know how to maneuver within. So either Mike Gundy needs to find a way to have that maneuverability, or Mike Gundy needs to find a way to gracefully step aside. Does that mean he should get fired, or he should quit, or he should retire? Not necessarily, as we discussed a little bit yesterday. I think the high up CEO role is fine for Mike Gundy as long as he hires people that can conduct day-to-day operations for him without a lot of hiccups. Of course, you're going to have to check off the major stuff with Mike Gundy, but the day-to-day operations, who should be orchestrating the practices? Are we going to go thud? Are we going to go live? Are we going to do walkthroughs? How many sets of plays are we going to install? What quarterback is going to take QB1 reps? What quarterbacks? Those decisions should be left up to the people that are good enough to make those decisions without being micromanaged. And so again, I feel like Chad Weiberg is definitely getting enough pressure from Dr. Shrum, and Dr. Shrum, I'm sure, is getting pressure from, a lot of external forces, and Chad Weiberg likely is getting external pressure from donors to at least make something happen. But we don't have to, rush too far. Okay. We've been this patient, right? We've been embracing the suck for a whole year now. we can embrace it a little bit longer if it equals something big. Now, I think all of us can agree that if we watch all these other teams make moves, and now you've got OU trying to steal Jet New, but you got all these teams making moves and hiring coaches and getting active in the transfer portal, and Oklahoma State's not. I'm trying to convince myself as well that might be a good thing. The fact that we're not rushing to do this means that we probably have been cooking something up for a couple of weeks. Maybe it's O-line coach. Maybe it's just, again, demoting a Dunn or a Nardo and bringing in the guy from Rice or an offensive coordinator from somewhere else. And again, I think the time for just moving and shuffling guys, coaches, was last season, midseason, not right now, right? That's just my personal opinion. I think it's too late to just do the demoting and shuffling thing. That should have already happened midseason or before the season ever even started. But even if that's, what we're going to get, I don't know that Chad Weiberg is going to sit idly by and just hope it all works out. I think Chad Weiberg knows that if he does nothing, it's likely going to be his tookus on the hot seat here before too long. So as much as it's frustrating to not hear a lot, at least publicly, not get a lot, I have to believe, maybe cynically, but nonetheless, I have to believe that's because we're not rushing to disclose something too prematurely. We're going to make sure that we put all our ducks in a row before we start making an announcement. On top of, I'm sure some of these guys that are going to get released, Mike Gundy and other people on the staff would like to see them find new homes before they make any announcements. So, yeah, I get that side of it. I'm equally as irritated and frustrated as everybody else, but I just have to believe that Dr. Strum and Chad Weiberg are doing something that is going to make a decent-sized splash for Cowboy country. All right, y'all. Hopefully, hopefully the next couple days irons out some of this. But who knows, as an Oklahoma State fan, the cardiac Cowboy wait extends to even the coaching and transfer news. So it is what it is. We are where we are. Hopefully we have more updates here before too long. Until then, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State, because you could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, stop, collaborate, and hit the daggone like button. Hit the dislike button if you don't like it. That's okay, too. You won't hurt my feelers. I don't even know if I still have any. But nonetheless, I appreciate you all, the podcasting people out there. You're the bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, the funny stuff, the funky stuff. You know the drill. Hit the stars. Leave a review. Do what you do. Later, my taters.